equity, mate.
I will say this about investing. Everything you do learn is cumulative. What I learned at 20 is useful.
Welcome to another episode of Equity Mates, where we will help you learn to invest in 15 minutes or less. We break down the world of investing from beginning to dividend so that you can hopefully make some returns. My name is Bryce, and as always, I'm joined by my equity buddy, wisdom teeth out, Ren. How are you going, bro?
I'm very good, Bryce. Feeling a lot less full of wisdom.
Yeah.
I've got my teeth taken
4
out.
points less.
Yeah. But, you know, the show must go on.
Show must go on.
Yeah. Dosed up on painkillers. I'll still be here. You know,
I know. I was dubious about this one because on Monday you told me that you were going to get your wisdom teeth out on Tuesday.
Yeah. It was a snap decision.
Yeah, and we've got our show coming up in less than a week.
Yes.
Which A, was a bit worrying that you may be bruised and unable to talk, and B, you decided to do it in the chair.
Yeah. None of this general anaesthetic for me.
Ballsy stuff.
Just chucked the podcast on and told him to rip him out.
Well, you're looking pretty good for 2 days in, so...
Thanks, mate.
Well, I just mentioned the show, our live show.
You did.
We are, for those that have just joined our show, welcome. And for those of you who've been listening for a while, welcome back. So we've got some exciting news that we've been letting you all know about for the last couple of weeks. We're now less than a week away from doing our first live show down in Melbourne on Wednesday, the 5th of September. So we're partnering with BetaShares and being hosted by General Assembly in William Street at their GA campus, and we are going to be doing a live show entitled #Finance Goals, Make Your Money Grow With You. We're keen, Ren.
We are very keen.
We are keen.
If you haven't had enough of us waffling on over your phone or your computer, come join us and we'll chat in person.
We can waffle live.
We've put some slides together. We've got a general idea of what it's going to be. I reckon it will be a pretty good discussions. A lot of things that we haven't really talked about in the podcast. We haven't actually spoken about if we can record it and release it as a podcast. We might not be able to. So if you want to hear, you know, all these insights that we're trying to share with you, you're going to have to rock up.
Absolutely. This is live. Will not be recorded. We're not going to allow phones in the room or video recording.
Yeah.
So, people will be walking away from this refreshed and knowing that exactly what they need to do to start investing. So,
the best investment you can make is in your education, and the best educational investment you can make is the free ticket to our show.
Absolutely, Ren. Key point there. Free. Yeah. We don't like fees.
No.
Bit of an insight into
fees.
So tickets are free. Head to our social media pages or to our website, equitymates.com, and sign up for Melbourne on the 5th of September, Sydney on the 13th. Just to give you a quick idea of what the night will be like. It's going to start with the CEO of BetaShares. He's going to come on and give a bit of a spiel about ETFs, what they are, and some pretty cool new themes of investing, technology, cybersecurity, ethical warriors, that sort of stuff. And then we'll come on and we won't reveal exactly what we're going to do because you've got to come on.
It's top secret.
So let's leave it at that. We've given it a big plug. So as I said, head to our website. It's free. A couple of hours. There's nothing to lose.
Yeah,
You'll
exactly.
Actually a lot to gain. You just see us have a bit of a meltdown on stage.
Come heckle us if you want.
No, don't do that. So, Ren, it's been a pretty tumultuous week in politics, and this is something that we don't often discuss on the show as much as you would like.
Yeah.
You're a big politics kind of man.
Well, you know, every other media organisation has found some way to tie what happened in the last week to their media. You know? Bloody sports podcasts were finding a way to get some lib spill theme going. So we thought we better as well.
Exactly. So we're not talking about John McCain's passing. We're not talking about Trump and his continuation of rage towards Google and Twitter and Facebook on Twitter itself. We're talking about the crazy liberal spill, and we thought, Ren, that this would be a good opportunity to take a step back and discuss what actually happens to markets when these sorts of events occur, and should it be something that we worry about?
Yeah, because you'll always hear it X has happened, here's how markets reacted, or here's how the Australian dollar reacted. If you listen just to the news, you'll assume that there's like an event happens and the market instantly moves in response to that event. So we're going to have a look at what happened last week, and then we're going to just have a chat about Liberal spills or Labor spills of years gone by.
Oh, riveting stuff.
Yeah. But the point of this episode is how much should you care about the day-to-day news, especially non-business, non-finance news, and how much does it really affect your investments? So let's start with what's fresh in our minds.
Well, ScoMo.
Not the Woolworths campaign. But
Too soon. So yeah, what is? We've got ScoMo.
We do. 30th Prime Minister of Australia.
Malcolm's out.
Yeah.
He's back home in Vaucluse. Moved out of the
yeah.
lodge last night, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Or wherever, the lodge and Kirribilli House.
Yeah. By the time people are actually listening to this, he'll be well and truly out.
Well and truly out, yeah. And so he's back home. ScoMo's in. So what happened?
So, our third of the last 5 Prime Ministers, 3 of them have not been elected when they came in.
It's infuriating.
It's the new way to become Prime Minister. So, look, we won't rehash it too much. Turnbull sensed that a challenge was coming, called the spill on Tuesday, the 21st, won that vote narrowly, and then a couple of days later, the Liberal Party members circulated a petition to call another spill. The spill happened, Turnbull lost the leadership, Turnbull didn't stand, ScoMo, Bishop and Dutton stood, ScoMo emerged victorious.
ScoMo being Scott Morrison.
Scott Morrison,
yes. The former Treasurer.
The former Treasurer,
yeah.
Yes. So, the former Treasurer and Sharks #1 ticket holder.
Really?
The
Sharks?
The Sharks.
Oh my God.
He loves the Sharkies. When he was walking into the spill and all the media were like, trying to get comments, snapping photos, all he said was Sharks to beat Newcastle.
Really? What a legend.
Which makes me like him a lot more.
Yeah. Okay. So he's got a pretty good sense of humour.
Yeah. He follows the wrong sport, but
we'll forgive him.
Yeah.
All right, so let's start with that. Do you think there was any implication? So the market did bounce, I'm pretty sure, when the news came out that ScoMo was a chance of victory and running.
Yeah, so what we saw, we'll start with the 21st. Now, I don't actually have the numbers here, which is frustrating, but to go with this podcast, there will be a blog post in show notes around the 6 different leadership challenges and what markets did in that time. So you can follow along at home if you want to get that up. But what we saw basically on the 21st was a massive drop, like just a very sharp drop as soon as Turnbull called the spill.
Yep.
And so I guess, in that sense, you could say markets were worried.
Mm-hmm.
You can probably say there was a direct correlation there. Markets were worried about leadership turmoil and they fell.
Yeah.
And they stayed down really for the rest of the week.
Yep.
Scott Morrison took over, and you didn't see it snap back up, even though, he was the former Treasurer. It really was sort of 3 or 4 days later until the market started trending up and it recovered to where it was pre the first spill.
Okay.
But looking at it, by the 28th, 29th of August, we were back to where we were beforehand. So really in a week,
okay,
it dropped and came back up.
So nothing major when it was announced that ScoMo was the winner?
No. If anything, it dropped a little the next morning and then it sort of started a slow and steady climb from there.
Interesting.
Yeah. But really, looking at it, it comes into the chart and then it drops massively and bounces around the bottom for a bit and then just recovers to its previous position. So I guess, if you're looking at it, you might say that the market reacted to the uncertainty of who the leader would be and what their policies would be. And when ScoMo came back in and people realised it was sort of, going to be much the same, then it sort of returned to its previous momentum, previous trend.
Yeah, I think that's the main key there, as you mentioned policy, and I would imagine that's what markets would be most wary of in these sorts of things. Even within parties, between Dutton and ScoMo, Scott Morrison, there would probably be a slight difference in economic policy, but also particularly the fear that maybe if Labor were to come in, what impact that would have on the economy, especially around things like the company tax cuts that the government have tried to push through,
Yep.
and the impact on housing market and I guess overall economic growth.
And the other big one would be around franking credits.
Yeah.
Because you know how you can get
Shorten.
paid out your franking credits, but Shorten wants to cut that off.
Yeah, which we did do
So-
an episode on, so go back and listen to that.
Yeah. So I guess, there, if you're actually getting paid money that you might not be able to be paid if there's a Labor government, you're obviously going to price the companies less because you're not actually going to see that physical cash in hand. But look, really, what we saw was there was a sharp market move on the uncertainty, and then it recovered pretty quickly.
Yeah.
That's really in a nutshell, what you need to take away from that week, the week that was, and now markets are basically behaving normally.
It's
again.
fine. We've forgotten about it. ScoMo's off on his first international tour.
Yeah.
Julie Bishop's retired.
Yeah. If Tony Abbott became Prime Minister, then,
Oof. I'd leave the
GFC
country.
2.0.
Yeah, so I guess my point for this, Ren, is, as I just mentioned, there's not really much to take away from it. Like, don't freak out. You can't really gain or lose too much. We're back where we were. Economic policies aren't really going to change that much. So we're just going to continue the way we are. If Labor might be in a better position to win. And of course, as we just said, their stances are a bit different. So who knows what will happen if they do win to the market. But it'll be interesting to see the impact that a Labor win would have on election day on a market. Well, it'll probably be on a weekend, so it'll be closed. But following, good follow-up episode.
Yeah. There's a concept that people use a lot around this time, and the concept is called sovereign risk. They're using it incorrectly.
Oh, really?
Sovereign risk refers to the risk that a government won't be able to pay back. It's generally poorer government won't be able to pay back its foreign denominated debt, usually US debt.
Like
Don't worry,
Argentina.
but people use the term, and then they talk about policy uncertainty. So they say, the constant changing of leaders leads to sovereign risk because businesses don't want to invest because they're not sure what the policy would be.
Yeah.
And look, there's some truth to the concept. They're just using the term incorrectly. But, the classic example is if Abbott replaced Turnbull and all of a sudden all these renewables companies then had invested for the long term, but Abbott just sacked their funding.
True.
Invested in coal. So there's always a little bit of uncertainty there. But generally what you find on a market level is as many winners as there are for a policy, there are losers. So, if Abbott did become Prime Minister, you would see the renewables industry suffer, but you'd probably see the mining industry gain, and the index probably nets out pretty smoothly.
So overall, they don't really have much impact.
Yeah.
We could conclude.
Yeah. And
So how have other spills gone, generally speaking? As you said at the start, we've had 6 now since Howard's year.
Well,
Do you have an idea of...
I actually narrowed it down. There was more than 6, but in the blog post, we just covered off the major 6.
Okay.
And what you just said there was exactly it. No real impact. So
Okay.
what you see is, the first chart we have, I won't go through all 6. You can check out the blog post. But the first chart is when Gillard challenges Rudd and becomes Prime Minister. The market's in a downtrend and it just continues on a downtrend. Nothing really changes. Rudd takes the leadership back. It just is like over the week it trades flat. There's a little bit of up and down, but really that's the pattern that you get in all of them. Check out. So we pulled out the charts for the sort of the week of the spills or the 2 weeks of the spills for each of them. When Abbott beats Rudd in an election, the market's trending upwards, continues to trend upwards. Nothing really deviates, and it surprised me because before I looked at these charts, I would have expected some sharp movement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just because, Prime Minister is so important and, it gets so much media attention. But really, they
Didn't do anything.
It doesn't really matter. The biggest move was when Turnbull called the first spill on Tuesday and the market fell sharply. So I guess that's probably indication of Dutton more than anything else.
Yeah, exactly. So just focus on your stocks. Don't worry about what's going on there, and you'll be okay.
The last chart I think is the most important chart, which is it's from 2010 to 2018, and we've just overlaid who the Prime Minister is at any one time over the market. And what you see is that regardless of who the Prime Minister is, the market just does its thing. It continues its slow and relentless grind upwards.
Yeah. So just buy the index and see you later.
Well, this is probably a bigger conversation given what's happening, with Trump and all that at the moment. Like you started this whole conversation about all the stuff that's going on in America, and Bank of America Merrill Lynch pulled out a chart, and it was basically like, what is everyone freaking out about in the news since they've gone back to 2011, but it's been things like the US fiscal debt crisis, the EU sovereign bond crisis, geopolitical stuff, China's hard landing, political populism in 2016, quantitative tightening in 2017, trade war stuff in 2018. And yet, through all that time, from 2011 onwards, we're in the longest bull market in history. The S&P 500 is up almost 10% just this year alone, despite a trade war. The S&P 500 and the Nasdaq haven't had a down year since 2008. So
it's a weird one.
In the chaos of the news,
the
market just keeps grinding upwards.
Yeah, it's such a weird one. I find that weird though because, like, a lot of these things have lag effect, right?
Yeah.
So it might be chaotic news now, but who knows what impact it's going to have in 3, 4, 5 years' time or whatever. So yeah, we're in a bull run because everyone's feeling great, credit's cheap, but it's interesting to comprehend.
You are a bit of a perma bear. Now, the article that goes with this Bank of America chart has some explanations, and the main ones are that expectations matter more than news. So markets, as soon as investors expect things, they price it in, and so news is generally confirmation more so than news.
Yeah.
So that's why you don't see massive market movements unless it's really surprising news.
Yeah.
And then, just things that, a lot of the stuff that we talk about is uncorrelated to the economy, like who the Prime Minister is doesn't really affect how much iron ore BHP is going to be able to dig up in this year.
Yeah.
So, look, I think care about the news, but don't care about the news because of your stocks.
Profound. You've still got some wisdom.
I didn't take all my time.
No, I agree. And I'm coming to realize a lot, this year especially, that whilst the market might be, it might seem reactionary in some way to news, it's only very briefly, and as you've displayed and demonstrated here, that it's just grinding through. It does its own thing, and as I said, my expectation, which is most prevalent in the reporting season that we're seeing at the moment.
Yeah,
so we've had some stocks that have shot through the roof on. A beating expectation.
Yeah, Bryce just wants to plug Afterpay here.
No, mate, we're down. We're down. It's down. We need to sell. Anyway, we'll leave that for another episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was good, Ren. I totally agree.
So check out the blog post.
Yeah.
It's the only news you should read about the leadership spill.
True. Until next week.
Equity Mates and the people appearing in this program may have positions in the companies mentioned. This is general advice only. Please speak to a financial professional to understand how it may pertain to your individual situation.
Hello, mates of Equity Mates. Or I guess that just makes you Equity Mates. Anyway, it's Bryce here. One of the most frequently asked questions we get is, where do we find information about all these stocks, and where's a good place to start? Now, we could do a whole episode on this, and we often do touch on it, but the best place to start is by signing up to our Thought Starters weekly email. Each week, we send you some cool stuff that has caught our eye during the week, as well as some more detailed articles on stocks and invested-related content. We also include Basics 101. These are articles tailored specifically for beginners to really propel you on your way. We don't spam you. I mean, we hate spam. It's once a week, and there's enough stuff in there to occupy you for a full day of browsing at work. Now, Ren puts a lot of effort into finding quality articles for you guys, so if anything, just sign up so he feels the love. Head to equitymates.com and chuck in your email at the bottom of the page.